wait until I can go to wait until I go to the store where they have those robots and
Yeah.
they help you. All right, we should be in Chagiga. So
Hmm.
we should base Zion. The garments of an Amaretz have midrash combination perusim. Garments of Perushim have midrash contamination for those who eat truma. Garments of those who eat truma have midrash contamination for those who eat kodesh. Garments of those who eat kodesh have midrash contamination for those who handle purification water. Joseph ben Yosef was the most devout of the Kohanim, yet his napkin was deemed to have midrash contamination for those who eat kodesh. Yochanan ben Gadga used to eat according to the purity regulations of kodesh all his life, yet his napkin was deemed to have midrash contamination for those who handle purification water. The stringency of cultures compared to truma is as follows. We may immerse vessels within other vessels for truma, but not for kodesh. The bottom, the inside, and the handle are considered separate vessels as regards truma, but not as regards kodesh. Someone carrying a midrash may simultaneously carry truma, but not kodesh. The garments of those who eat truma have midrash contamination, but those who eat kodesh. Unlike the rule of kodesh is the rule of truma. For in the case of immersing garments, to be worn while handling kodesh, one must untie the knots, dry, immerse, and then retie them. But in the case of truma, one may tie and then immerse. Vessels that were was that it? No, vessels that were completed in a state of tahara can require immersion for use with kodesh, but not for use with truma. A vessel combines whatever is in it with regard to kodesh, but not with regard to truma. The fourth degree of contamination in the case of kodesh is invalid, but only a third degree is invalid in the case of truma. In the case of truma, if one of a person's hands became contaminated, the other one is still pure. But in the case of kodesh, he must immerse them both, for one hand contaminates the other as regards kodesh, but not as regards truma. Okay.
All right. Further chumras of Kodesh over Truma. Ochlin ochalim neguvim biyadayim mesavos betruma. So let's say you've got a Kohen who's busy eating truma, and what happened during the meal? He accidentally touched something. He accidentally touched something tame with his one hand, touched a tame liquid or something, and what a pity! But he's still got the truma in his mouth, and he feels, well, you know what? Let me just have another slice of chulin bread or something, or a bite of an apple, or whatever. While he's got the food in his mouth, or a bite of meat, which can't be truma. So he wants to pick up that chulin with his tamei hand. Now, hands are shnias l'tuma. Chulin doesn't go beyond a sheni l'tuma. So if he doesn't, so if he touched the chulin food, it doesn't cause any tuma to the chulin food. So he's allowed to take that chulin and stick it in his mouth, and we're not worried about him accidentally touching the truma that's already in his mouth before he goes and washes his hands again. Okay, so that's allowed. But aval kodesh, if somebody's eating kodesh and the same thing happens, he's not allowed to put any other food into his mouth because of the chashash that he's going to touch something kodesh in his mouth. Because we have that greater fear of things that are kodesh. Ha'onen v'ha'mechus ha'kippurim. Now, these are people, an onen, a mourner on, who's from the day of the death of his relative, and mechus ha'kippurim, and somebody who still needs to bring a korban. So, for example, a metzora who hasn't yet brought his korban. Okay,
Okay.
he's done his tara and everything. He's completely tahor, but he hasn't yet brought his korban. So there he is not allowed to eat kodesh until he's brought his korban. That's called the mechilsa kippurim. Tzrichin tvila lakodesh. They need to go to mikveh in for kodesh, but they don't need any kind of mikveh for truma, even though they're already tahor. They need to because they've had, as soon as the time limit passes by. So they were already tahor. They brought so the onen. Let's say he did not become tame since the time that he became an onen, and the next day he's no longer an onen, so he should be allowed to. So he's allowed to eat truma again without going to mikveh, but he's not allowed to eat kodesh again without going to mikveh. And same with the mechusik kippurim. He goes and he was tahor the whole time, but he wasn't allowed, but technically he wasn't allowed to eat Kodesh. So now he goes and brings his korban, and now he should be allowed. He's allowed to eat truma right away, but he's not allowed to eat. But he's not allowed to eat Kodesh. Okay.
Yes.
Now comes an interesting reversal. Chomer b'truma. There are places where we're more masmir by truma than we are by Kodesh, and why is that? As we will see, it's exactly because of the fact that Kodesh is so much more stringent that Amei Haaretz, who we normally don't trust in Tuma and Tara, when it comes to Kodesh, we say, okay, with Kodesh, even Amei Haaretz are careful about it, and therefore the Chumrah turns into a kula. How so? Let's see. Gomer b'Trumas should be Yehuda nemanim al Taras. So in the region of Yehuda, which is around the temple, and that's specifically because it's around the temple. Amei Haaretz are believed about the Tara of wine, shemen, and oil, kol yemos Hashanah, the whole year round. If you're coming through on your way to Yerushalayim and you want to buy wine or oil from an Amei Haaretz in the region, and he says, yeah, it's Tower, it's good for kodshim, you believe him. You wouldn't normally
Right.
believe an Amei Haaretz about Tuma and Tara, but for this, you believe him. Ubeshas hagitos v'habadim af al truma, and during the time of the actual grape pressing and the oil pressing season, because so much of it is being exported to the temple, they even believed on truma. Okay, but generally they're not believed on truma. They only believed on kodesh.
Okay.
Avru hagitos v'habadim. So once you pass the season, the same grape juice, the same wine, the same oil. V'heviu habadim v'heviu lo chavis shel yain shel truma, and they say, yeah, we made this barrel of wine from the same batch that like the Kohen Gadol bought from us just like 2 weeks ago. And they say, sorry, lo yikablenu mimenu, we can't trust you now because the time has passed. But it was the
Right.
same batch. It's not about the batch; it's about the time. Okay. Aval menicha legasaba. So the Amaretz says, he's a chacham. He says, okay, it's about the time. Fine, I'll stick it in the storeroom. It'll age another year, and then I'll sell it to the people on the way to the temple, and that's 100% legit. Okay. V'im amar lo hifrashti lo socha revius kodesh. Ne'eman. So if, however, he says to the customer, look, I put some kodesh into this wine. You've got to use it. You've got to use it for kodesh. Then you say, okay, yeah, that's legitimate, and I believe you, and the whole thing is considered tamar because um we can believe the Amaretz under these circumstances. Kada yain v'kadeshemen hamedumaos. Now, what happens if you have wine or oil that have had the truma fall back into them? So now they're meduma. Okay, now you've got to separate out some wine or oil to give to a kohen before you can have it again. Okay, ne'emanim aleihem b'shas hagitos v'abadim. So again, we believe them about this that they're believed about the vessels to say that they're tahor. B'shas hagitos v'abadim. Once again, this is talking about truma, so we can only
Right.
believe them during the season,
Season. Okay.
during the pressing season. But kodim lagitos shovim yom, and also the season includes 70 days before they
Four.
start, and so,
Right.
that's for kalim that are used for these things, and they're believed about the Tara. Okay.
Okay.
Um, Another geographical concern over here, I mean, Modi'is Velifnim, from the town called Modi'is. I don't think this is the modern day Modi'in. That seems a little bit too far. But okay, so from Modi'is and inwards, Nemanim al Kleicheres. Then Amei Aretz are believed about Kleicheres that they're Tahor. Mina Modi'is velachutz einan Nemanim. Sorry, they're not believed. Ketzad Hasa, same potter. Hakadar Shehu Mocher Hakaderos. So he sells all these pots or kalim. Nichnas lifnim min amodis. So if he takes his donkey and his cart and he drives them over the border into to the other side of Modius, who hakadar, V'hena kaderos, v'hena lokchim. Same, same potter, same pots, same customers. He's Neeman. Yatza, he goes outside, same potter, same pots, same customers, not believed. Just a rule about, so in other words, we never say it's anything personal. Because as soon as you say it's something personal, say, why can't you believe me? I say, no, sorry, it's just a rule about the time of year, about the position that we're in, and that's it. Okay, let's go back.
Okay. Uh, okay. We have Gimel Gimel. And these documents may be written during Kol Hamoed. Documents of betrothal, divorces, receipts, testaments, gifts, and prosbulum. Evaluation documents, support documents, conciliar certificates, refusals, and election contracts, court edicts, government documents. We may not write loan contracts during Kol Hamoed. However, I'm sorry, if he does not trust him or if he has nothing to eat, then he may write. We may not write books of scripture, nor tefillin, nor mezuzah during Kol Hamoed. We may not correct a single letter, even in the Torah scroll of the temple court. Reb Yehuda says a person may write tefillin or mezuzah for his personal use, and he may spin the blue thread for his tzitzis on his thigh. He who buries his dead relative 3 days before a festival has the edict of 7 days of mourning annulled. Excuse me. He who buries his dead relative 8 days before the festival has the edict of 30 days mourning annulled. This is so because they said Sabbath is included in the period of mourning, but he does not interrupt it. Festivals, however, interrupt but are not included.
Okay,
Reb Elliot,
that's it.
that's it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Rosh
Rosh
Hashanah.
Okay. Rosh Hashanah should be Daled Daled. Originally, they accepted testimony regarding the new moon all day. Once the witnesses were delayed in arriving and the Levium blundered in the daily hymn, so they ordained that they accept new moon testimony only until the Mincha, and that if witnesses come before the Mincha onward. That day should be kept holy, and the next day should be kept holy. After the temple was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai instituted they accept the new moon testimony all day. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karka said, this too did Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai institute, that even if the head of the Bezdin should be in another place, the witnesses could go only to the place of assembly. This is the order of blessings. He recites the blessings called patriarchs, the blessings called powers, the blessings called shofars, and blows. Then he recites the blessing of the sacrificial service, the blessing of thanksgiving, and the blessing of the Kohanim, and these are the words of Yochanan ben Nori. Said Rabbi Akiva to him, if he does not blow the shofar at the blessing of kingship, why does he mention it? Rather, he recites the blessings of patriarchs, powers, and holiest in the name, and then includes kingship with all the blessings of the holiest of the day, and blows, remembrance, and blows, shofars, and blows. And then he recites the blessing of the sacrificial service, the blessing of thanksgiving, and the blessing of the Kohanim. They recite no fewer than 10 kingship verses, then 10 remembrance verses, and then shofar verses. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says if he recited 3 verses from each of them, he has discharged his obligation. They should not recite any verse of remembrance, kingship, or shofar, which alludes to punishment. He begins with verses from the Torah and concludes with verses from the prophets. Rabbi Yossi says if he concluded with verses from the Torah, he has discharged his obligations.
Okay.
And Sachem. Sachem, we have Tet. We have Tet. No, it's a Zion Tet. Any Pesach offering that was taken up or became contaminated must be burned immediately. If the owners became contaminated or died, it must be disfigured and be burned on the 16th. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says this too must be burned immediately because there are none to eat of it. This bones, the sinews, and the leftover meat must be burned on the 16th. If the 16th falls on the Sabbath, they must be burned on the 17th because they did not override the Sabbath of the festival. Anything edible in a large ox must be eaten in its intended kid, including the ends of the shoulder blades and the cartilage. If one breaks the bone of an uncontaminated Pesach, and he incurs a penalty of 40 lashes, but one who leaves over flesh of an uncontaminated one, and who breaks the bone of a contaminated one does not incur the penalty of 40 lashes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Next.
Oh boy. Man, you can't stop this. Okay, Kalayim. Is it Zion Daled?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, If one causes his vine to overhang his neighbor's cereal crop, he renders it forbidden and is responsible for it. Reb Yossi and Reb Shimon say a man does not render forbidden that which is not his. Um, the following forbid but do not render forbidden. The
Well, hold on.
remainder of
Now you've
the
gone backwards.
I did that's right.
Mm.
Okay. Never gave that part up. Reb Yossi says it once happened that a man sowed his vineyard in the sabbatical year, and the matter came before Rebbe Akiva, who said one does not render forbidden something that is not his. If a violent murderer sowed a vineyard and was recovered from him, he cuts it down, even if the intimate days of even on the intimate days of a festival. How much must he pay the laborers? Up to a third. More than this, he cuts it as usual, and even after the festival, from when on is he called the violent shooter? From the time it is forgotten. Okay.
Okay. Hello.
Okay. Caleb. Shh. Caleb. Yud Chet Gimel. A bin, a chest, in a closet that have had one of the legs broken off, or even they can still contain a tahor. If they cannot contain in the usual manner, Rabbi Yossi rules them tameh. The poles of a bed, its platform, and its covering are tahor, and only tameh parts of a bed are the bed itself, and the malbim, but the malbims are the Levites are tahor. Regarding every malbim that was placed upon tongues, Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda rule them tameh, but Reb Yossi and Reb Shimon rule them tahor. Reb Yossi says, why is this different than the malbims of the Levites? They should be tahor, for the malbims of the Levites are tahor. Regarding a bed that was tameh midrash, even if a short boy is removed along with the two legs, it is tameh. If a long boy is removed along with two legs, it is tahor. Then the kameh rules it tameh. If one broke off two diagonally positioned tongues, or he broke off two diagonally positioned legs, he breaking off a handbreadth from one and a handbreadth from the other, and he lowered the bed to a height of less than a handbreadth, the bed is tahor. Okay. All
And
right.
Sanhedrin.
Test A. Someone who flogged twice is placed by the court in a cell where he is fed barley until his stomach bursts. Someone who murders without witnesses to that effect is placed in a cell where he is fed spare bread and scant water. If one who steals a service vessel blasphemies and is by supernatural force or cohabitates with a Gentile woman, zealous may smite him. If a Kohen serves while Tomei, his brother Kohanim do not bring him to court. Rather, the young Kohanim remove him from the court, split his skull with clubs, and the young Kohen who stirs in the temple, Rebbe Kiva says, he is executed by strangulation, but the sages say he is hand by the hand of heaven.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Vigilante stuff, eh?
all
Mm.
Israel has a share in the world to come, as it is stated, and your people are all righteous, and they shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my plantings, work of my hands to be glorified. These are the ones who have no share in the world to come. One who says there is no basis for the restoration of the Torah. One who says the Torah is not from heaven, and an Abakoros. Rebbe Kiva says also one who reads external books, and one who whispers over a wound and says, all the diseases that I have placed upon Egypt I shall not have placed upon you, because I am Hashem your healer. Abishol said, sorry. Mishal says, also one who utters the name according to its letters.
Okay. That's great. So I'm going to stop the